I know. That's why I went. That's why I went with violin. It was a little more portable.
That's, yep.
Not that stuff.
I told Kelly she could play whatever she
Is
wants.
this everybody?
I think so.
Jamie?
Jamie couldn't make it.
Jamie
Dave
can't make
couldn't
it? Okay.
Okay.
I knew it.
I was late.
Yep. I think
Dave.
we're all here.
Okay.
And just so you know, I have to bounce about 5:45, but these folks will take over.
No.
Maybe once this morning when you
I
walked
will
in.
slip.
You could all,
We're totally gonna end up with the least
could.
park then.
Oh God,
My
that's
name
what happens
takes
when
you.
I leave.
Yeah, exactly. That'll
As long as it's not a memorial park.
that's too different.
It's the least time.
Okay, now I feel
What?
good.
No, this is for later.
We're just preparing.
I usually just grab an agenda.
Are we ready to go? Okay, all right, good deal. We'll call this Park Board meeting for the Village of Oregon to order at 5:01. And so this is rescheduled from the October 8th timeframe, but glad to have everybody on board. So we'll call it to order, and first of all, we'll go through roll call.
McDaniel,
Here.
Knutson. Here. Ruati,
Here.
Jameson, absent. Frisch, absent. Miller,
Present.
Herman.
Present.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Going to approval of minutes, we actually have two different meeting minutes that to approve. So we have June 11th and June 7th. All of that's been in the packet for you to be able to take a look at it. We could do a consensus vote unless somebody wants to separate those out. Okay, any motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Andy, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Lynn, thank you. Any other comments about the meeting minutes? All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
It's a new one.
Catch that, Dan. So the community input, if there's anybody would like to report to the park board, any comments or whatever, you're shaking your head, that's a definite no. You could play for us. No, thanks. So I see none, and so therefore we'll move on to the next. So item 5, reports from the village staff. We have A, B, and C. A is the Director of Public Works reports.
I'm just catching up myself. No, actually, just a quick update. The contractors have demowed from J.C. Park. The fence is down. We're just now waiting grass to grow, and everything's going really, really well with that. I got word today that the maintenance shop is all done. We're just waiting for the final punch list on that. and, things are going great out there. So it's, fun to see that. And, I've requested, I don't know why this has never really popped into my mind, but we don't have park signs on Keller Alpine Meadows Park. Anyone ever notice that?
There is a sign
At
at the parking lot that calls the whole thing Keller Alpine Meadows Park.
the.
The map calls it that, but
the-
there is no physical
Well,
sign.
oh yeah, the map and everything like that, yeah. So I've actually, asked Nick to have some signs made that we'll put at both, the parking lot and then over at, the entrance to, kinda near the bridge, near where the Buffalo Art, that area is. Cause people always they say, I don't know, what are you talking about, Keller Alpine Park, and we're like, just kind of occurred to me, so we'll be doing that. Probably getting those on order over winter and then install them in spring. I'm not gonna put West Side Park out there, I figured Andy would like us not putting a sign out there for that.
I mean, you
and-
can call it a park, maybe that'll keep other people from doing something there.
But no, we're gonna be doing that, I hopefully get some, people kind of more recognizing, that area. But, any questions at all with parks? Oh, Eric Zawaska started. We'll probably have him start coming to the park board meetings once he gets, up to speed on everything. Right now, he's just learning where everything is and stuff, but Eric is our Parks and Facilities Manager. We're thrilled to have him. Has some incredible turf experience and expertise, including a, turf management degree from Penn State. So we're thrilled to have his education and his experience. He's worked with the Baltimore Orioles with his dad and, worked for Madison Little League. Has a lot of field experience and turf experience, and, yeah, we're just looking forward to having him, on board and everything, so.
Andy?
I just have a question on that. So he's got a lot of turf experience, which is great for all the sports ball stuff.
Correct.
What does he have that's not turf related as far as the rest of the natural areas, parks and stuff?
As far as natural areas, he probably has about what we have, which is not much, you know? Not, as far as like for maintenance of, what do you call it, like, native plants and plantings, yeah, you know, I wouldn't say any of the applicants that we found had any kind of experience with that.
Okay, I mean, I'm excited that there is someone on staff
Yeah.
now to start managing some of these properties, but I just don't want it to be lost that there's more to the parks than turf.
Do we have conservation parks? Sorry, that was
Yeah.
a segue into Morgan here and everything, but yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. You know, hopefully over time, we can get some experience in those areas and everything.
What kind of response have you had from the sports organizations that have utilized the J.C. Park and coordinating the scheduling that is needed to take place over the summer?
I have not, the fact that I've not heard any complaints says Leanne's doing a phenomenal job.
Well, thank you.
I'm serious. As far as, I think we still have some sports organization learning and all that kind of stuff. We kind of were a little shackled this year because we didn't have the maintenance buildings, so there's people that had to store some stuff in the concession building, which we're not gonna be allowing in the future. But I think it's been, I sent an email out to all the sports orgs today, introducing Eric and kind of wrapping up where we are at the end of this year and letting them know where we were with phase 2 and everything. And honestly, I think it was a very successful year for the first use. And I walked the outfields of the 3 existing baseball fields, and also the soccer field, or the playing field there. The baseball fields were phenomenal on the outside. I mean, it looked like they hadn't even been touched, which is great. The playing field, as we expected, get some wear and tear in some areas, and those are gonna get repaired, but nothing that we haven't expected. So, Leanna, how's it been?
No.
It seems like it has gone
Yeah, I
Well.
concur. Mhm.
So I understand there's some wind trouble with the pickleball, and that,
Somewhat.
the wind trouble with some of the pickleball blowing over, that was.
Well, that was
earlier
just the
this year.
fence. Yeah, I think we talked about that, didn't
Yeah,
we?
it could be.
Yeah,
So
that, we got
how has
that fixed.
been?
Huh, that's, well, that was fixed. It wasn't fixed in the same schedule that
Oh.
they had wanted. And, that's just kind of our world when, fence contractors were off doing much bigger projects and we kind of had to be fit in. Same fence contractor that was doing, J.C. Park Phase 2, so they were kind of waiting till they were out here to do that. But it's all fixed and I think people are pickling.
Are the remote soccer fields doing well? Did they go through the kind of challenging summer okay?
Netherwood looks good. and-
Yeah, the one main challenge, and we've been working with soccer on this, is some of the fields, Norm Champion and, Windcrest, or Windward?
Windcrest.
But it's Windward Park, isn't it?
Windcrest.
Windcrest Park.
It's Windcrest Park, but it's
On
right between
Windward
Windward and
Drive, yeah.
Leeward. There are some residents that have had, individuals that use their side yards, use their backyards, and, I personally don't blame them at all, because people can be rude, and if they're asked to leave, it always depends on how they're asked, of course. But, and so we've worked with soccer on some signage and some things to help, try to alleviate some of those concerns. But it's kind of always a battle when you have a field like Norm Champion, which is tucked back away. You have people parking on the street and they see, there's the field, there are the kids, and I'm right here and there's a yard. They just go blowing right through it. And, so we're gonna look at, I saw a paintball gun that you can, no, don't write that down. But there are things, signage, maybe temporary fencing, something like that. But other than that, that's been about the biggest, don't you think, the biggest complaint from using some of the remote fields? I know there were people, I've talked to soccer about next year's for Fall Fury, and we want to get with them this spring to line out the fields that we'll be able to be using at J.C. Park. And we hope that with using that, the outfield of Stats, and some other smaller fields and some of the outfields of the ball fields, might be able to, I think, use that complex a lot better for the Fall Fury. It's always weather dependent and stuff, but, we want to meet with them. I think we talked about in the spring, we talked about maybe meeting with them to just kind of lay out those fields and everything, so we can maybe do a little less remote and more centered in that area.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions for Jeff? Judy?
There's a lady that planted a lot of plants in the Bergamot Park. Is that a volunteer or,
Justin?
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
They
yeah.
had 2 or 3 kids with them.
Yeah, so, we've been approached, I talked to Lynn, we've been kind of in contact with, there's been a very active individual who's wanted to kind of clean up the islands in the Bergamot traffic circles, so they've been working together on that,
Okay.
on some of the landscaping and everything, and then they did request around the sign. We're trying to kind of get away from some of that, but we kind of conceded and said, as long as you're willing to do it and take care of it, it's not a huge endeavor. If for some reason it doesn't get taken care of and we have to reconvert it back to grass or something, it's not a really big deal, but I think it looks nice. I saw the pictures, he sent a couple
He was there
pictures.
for 5 days, so I'm thinking.
Huh?
He was there for 5 days.
On the sign?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I sat in my kitchen and watched. I'm not a gardener, sorry.
Yeah. The only challenge, and Lynn and I talked to, about this the other day, and she knows, you guys have heard my heart too. It's like what we did at, not High Meadows, what's the one? Hawthorne Estates. Hawthorne Estates, which had that really large landscaped area that just looked terrible. And we finally removed it this year because of just so many complaints. And it turns into just a weed patch that makes it honestly too much money and time to maintain. So I'm assuming you're nodding. I can just see the blistering sun. I'm going towards the light.
You're glowing, Jeff.
Yeah, huh?
You're glowing.
I know. But yeah, I thought it looks really nice. We thanked
Very
him for
nice.
that. We'd like to maybe we can have that person come to a meeting sometime in the future. I don't know if you want them, but I know they've been very active in the Bergamot area there.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Any other comments? Jeff, thank you very much.
Welcome, thank you.
Appreciate it. 5B, Community Development Report, the Conservation Parks Master Plan Update, and virtual introduction of Morgan Hague.
Virtual now in person since
Oh.
we rescheduled, so happy to share, if you haven't read the memo already, that we did we were matched with a student or chosen by a student in the UW-Madison Landscape Architecture Capstone Project Program. So this is Morgan Hawk.
Welcome.
And she's gonna do a lot more talking than I will today, but just as an introduction, so Morgan's from Sun Prairie. She's a senior in the UW-Madison Landscape Architecture Program. She and I met with Jeff a couple weeks ago virtually, kind of give her lay of the land and some background and history. And then October 1st, we did a site visit on a very nice day, drove around while some of the trails were being repaved, so it was kind of nice. We didn't have to kick too many people off the trails. We were zooming down the way
did
on the
not
truck.
zoom.
We meandered, but we walked a lot around Lerner Park, kind of got out and did a lot of tromping through there too. So hopefully she got a lot of ideas, I think a lot of pictures, and definitely knows her plant species and bumblebees, so we were very impressed. Jeff said you could probably just be making some of this up and we'd be nodding and saying, yeah, that sounds great. So we've kind of gone over some of the scope with her, and then she can talk a little bit about how she's kind of interpreted that. And then we have in the packet a timeline that she put together. She can kind of talk through, that's pretty high level, and then a document that she was just working on this weekend, so we'll include it in the packet afterwards, but more kind of goals and objectives. So I will hand it over to Morgan and introduce yourself and kind of share what you've learned and kind of what the next couple months are gonna look like for you.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Morgan Hack. Obviously, as you heard, senior at UW-Madison, and grew up around the area, so know it pretty well. So this is the workflow diagram. So I'm obviously working through things in a class setting, so we have to have things turned in at certain times. So this is one that I've been working on, and it kind of talks through the timeline of the project. Since this is my capstone, it's a 2-semester project. So the first semester is really like defining what's going on, researching about the site, about the area, about like the region in general, and then creating a proposal in terms of like a framework plan without any like real designs put down yet. And then the second semester is more about like designing what we want to put there, what kind of we want to implement in the area, and then refining that and presenting it as a final document to you guys and to my class. So for the project goals, so this is another, as I'm working through a class, we have to have deliverables so they understand that we're still working on stuff. So we worked through project goals, concerns, and program development. So as I was walking along the site with Elise and Jeff, we were talking about like goals, what we wanted to put in, what was needed in the area. And then obviously seeing that in person was very helpful to really put that like concept into reality. So the things I took away from that were some primary issues and concerns. So obviously there's a lot of issues with floodplain and drainage issues in the area. The whole site has flooded on multiple occasions, especially in towards like Lerner Park and DiMaggio and Dega. Those areas have a lot of like floodplain issues. So if we want to work in that area, we have to consider like boardwalks or like raised platforms that could deal with that sort of changing environment. And then obviously one of the biggest things we've talked about was the accessibility and visibility of the parks, because a lot of people don't even know that they're there or don't know how to get into a lot of the areas, especially when it comes to the smaller parks. Like obviously people know about Big Keller Alpine Meadows Park, but they don't know about DiMaggio, Dega, Lerner Park, like all of the, like, as you get over to the right, that accessibility becomes much less, and it's not very visible, so people don't go over there. So we talked about connection with that area, so that's going to be a main goal when moving forward. And then, obviously, it is a conservation park, so balancing human and wildlife conservation. I just did a literature review where I looked at 10 like articles that were focused around how to balance human and wildlife conservation and how it's been done in other areas, like in Canada with some of the like protected trees. There's been some research studies on like camping and vegetation. So I have a lot of research in terms of like how to work through that, but with it being like an ecological site, we want to focus on protecting the animals and the wildlife and plants that are currently existing, even if that means that some areas are a little less accessible to humans. And then I kind of touched on this earlier, unifying the park system under a cohesive identity. So that kind of helps with people knowing about the park as a whole, even if they have to like go and see like, okay, this is the whole park and then these are the historical parks within that. Just helps bring an understanding of the whole site itself. And then and then infrastructure and programming, which is like obviously a lot of overgrown paths, unmaintained areas, creating barriers of accessibility. The next part is pretty much just what I was talking about in just like less of a analysis, but more of a what can we do with that. And then programmatic elements at the end is, so we talked about adding boardwalks or viewing platforms throughout the site, especially boardwalks in the areas that have more drainage issues, because obviously the Keller Alpine Meadows Park just had that new repavement, so that's great and makes it very accessible for people, but trying to get beyond just that park, some of the areas require a little different infrastructure to maintain that area year-round, and maintain the accessibility and like being able to get out there. We went through and saw some of the small areas that currently exist there, like the small outdoor classroom or the little wooden platform, where people like kind of like having a place to go out to, because you know if you have like kids walking through the park, you really want to have like a point to go to. They don't just want to walk, they want to walk to get somewhere. So that was sort of a areas for education or areas for like engagement with the park itself. And then obviously trail improvements and connections and ecological improvements. I have a lot of passion for like conservation parks and conservation projects. I have a lot of interest in like native plantings and making an area like sustainable long term. I still have to like do more analysis on current conditions for all different areas, because we were looking around but I wasn't like analyzing the plants we were looking at. But talking through like if there are any invasive problems at any point in the park, just kind of enhancing the biodiversity as a whole, ensuring that long-term health of the ecosystem, not only through like the wildlife habitat, but also like the natural space for the community.
Do you do you also want to share some of what we talked about, kind of thoughts on getting community and stakeholder
Yes.
input throughout the process too, and kind of where that fits in?
Yeah, so obviously we want a lot of feedback from people to see what they actually want when it comes to this park, because I can come here and say, oh, well, this would be great, but if it's not what the people actually living here want to have and want to use, it's not going to be. So we're hoping to hear from some stakeholder groups, maybe do some like stakeholder interviews later this fall, but then also some wider community input. So maybe like an online survey I propose, because that could be something that could go out to people without them having to come here and talk to us. Or potentially even like a mobile walking tour where we collect people and say, hey, we're going to walk the park. So you can tell us, you know, oh, I love walking here. This is my favorite place. Keep this. Or, oh, I never get out here. This path isn't accessible. This area is falling apart. Just kind of hearing from people who use the parks and what they want moving forward. So the timeline for those are kind of within this month into the next month. I don't have it like in the workflow diagram, but I would love to hear from you guys on if you have any times that you think that would be best to do that at, because I have a lot of flexibility in my own schedule. But yeah.
And yeah, just to add to, Jeff and I and everyone here will definitely be kind of helping her through, and maybe the park board as well, if there's community events. Don't want to put her in front of a crowd and not set her up for success too, or, if we do a survey, definitely would be working with her to make sure that those are the types of questions we want to have, asked, and then helping with just distribution and getting the word out and everything too. But, yeah, so again, we'd love some feedback on what you've heard so far, if you think she's headed in the right direction, and then any thoughts or recommendations. I know for stakeholder groups, we were thinking definitely the Rotary group that's been really involved in Lerner Park, probably the Oregon Nature Alliance, maybe the library too, since they're kind of an active user of space within and nearby these parks as well. But yeah, love to hear some thoughts from you all.
Lynn?
I have a couple of thoughts. The first, piggybacking off of what you were just mentioning, Elise, there is at least one child care center that utilizes the Lerner Park area. They identified that in a child care summit that we held a couple of months ago. We can connect on that. But I would definitely encourage, especially for that outdoor classroom space, they may have, I know for a fact historically they've used that classroom space for like a picnic, like you said, destination to that spot sort of, and I think that would be really useful. I also think engaging people online is a great idea, or even within the library as visitors. Maybe potentially as you walk in, that survey is there for them to complete as they're there. I think one of the things that's nice about it, it kind of looks out onto those spaces, and so you can kind of visualize it as you're bringing in feedback. And then my second comment really is shifting a little bit away from the feedback piece, which is just to point out, it sounds like you've been doing a ton of research on the maintenance and kind of the future sustainability of this space. As you come across things that you think we could use, that would be really great. I mean, Jeff, you just explained that we don't have a ton of experience on maintaining these conservation areas, and at some point in time, this is going to get handed over to Public Works to sort of maintain for us. And so the easier we can get some training going on some of our staff, or just have some things to rely on when it comes to how are we going to maintain this in the long term, boardwalk spaces or things like that. I think that would be really helpful. So as you come across those things, if you want to just flag those, I think that would be potentially very useful for the park board, but also just for employees who are going to be in charge of maintaining those spaces. But thanks for all the work you're doing. What's that?
Or groups.
Or groups, exactly.
We will probably have like a friends group or something like that that will
Right.
be kind of taking over where the Rotary group is now. Or Rotary group, they're kind of trying to breathe some life back into the staff, kind of pass it to that next generation.
Yeah.
Because to date, Learner has really been four individuals, yeah, that have really kind of pushed for so many years,
Yeah.
right? Huh?
Not all with us
Just talking about how many are really left.
Right, well, yeah.
Yeah, they've been awesome. Andy, Judy,
I was thinking of school too, because quite a few of the teachers go out with the Rotary people. So I think this, ever who works with them, I think that would be a really nice, because maybe you can get them to volunteer to be, like the species and stuff like that.
Yeah, or like the 8th graders that do the.
Yeah,
we were talking
learner
about
part.
that like
Yeah.
park
Mhm.
pathway that they worked through.
Andy.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. I'm just excited for this, and to see where this goes, and more excited where it seems like you have a background with natural areas and stuff too, and that's something that excites you. So I'm just looking forward to seeing this, and I'm sure I'll be meeting with you at some point.
So Morgan, I likewise am very excited about it. I appreciate you accepting, taking on this, and getting some good information overall. I think a large portion, like you mentioned, is accessibility, and that's no different than what the Rotaries talked about, is trying to make it accessible. And we've had some of those experiences. We had a chance to actually go walk out there in winter, which was pretty awesome, but I got a very soaked leg because you break through the ice and you go into the heavy water overall. So a couple of things that do come to mind is I like your idea of how do you make it accessible but also not be disruptive. So I'm very kind of curious about that aspect. You mentioned boardwalks, and I've had a chance to be up into Forest. They've done an awesome job with boardwalks and can do a lot with that aspect of it. Not cheap, they get expensive. And so I'm very curious about what you feel is accessible but yet not disruptive and what comes into that place. And so I was just curious about how that plays into it. Any things you may be able to offer in regards to how you get accessible but not disruptive.
And some of that was like, we were talking, and it might be, part of that might be leaving some area untouched. I think it was kind of what you were hitting at there too,
Yeah,
as far
there's
as
certain
like,
areas where you could definitely leave it a little more natural, even though that means that area isn't necessarily like actively used. You could, for example, have a zone that is really just wild, but have like a lookout point from near there where, we saw that one really small like lookout point, which is kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
But,
it's tilting.
it's just like,
The leaning lookout point of Learner.
yeah. But something like that where maybe you have that like accessibility in view and able to like appreciate the area, but you're not necessarily walking through it, especially for zones that have a history of flooding really badly. Because there are definitely sections of that have that issue, which can like lead to less like boardwalk costs, but still like appreciating the area and being able to use that as a conservation like section of this, especially because right now it's pretty low use, so a lot of those areas are used to not having human interaction, not having like people disrupting the patterns. So by having maybe boardwalks to really interesting sites, like I know there was one boardwalk that's pretty covered that we walked along. That was more of a
Oh, the one out to the pond?
Yeah.
Just out to the
yeah, more of a dock. Yeah.
The dock, yeah.
They made me go first, can you believe that? That was just wrong.
So, similar to like a dock where you could have like a short area that still, extends that area where it's usable, but it doesn't lend itself to being like, here's a 2-mile strip of boardwalk, So more of that working around the landscape and working around those historic floodplains to reduce the amount you actually have to have on a boardwalk, especially by looking at for example, 2020 had a really bad flood year, so a lot of the photos we have from then kind of show that 100-year flood timeline and can show, this area might be one to avoid because there's really nothing you can do besides have it entirely up on a boardwalk. But another area might be, you can skirt around the edge here, and then maybe you only have to have a boardwalk for this small strip to create that connection to another higher elevation zone.
What about evasives? You mentioned some of those evasives, and there's a lot of land, so it's hard to determine that. How far do you think you'll help us with understanding how much evasive?
I will have to actually go out into the site more and look at the plantings out there because I don't know the extent of invasives right now, or even if they are that bad here because from what we were looking at, there were a lot of native species that I was pointing out along our walk, but I think that it's more of a a plan to mitigate the issues with it, and rather than completely eliminate it. But I really didn't see a huge anything glaring while we were out there. Because oftentimes when you see an invasive, you can almost see it on a map with how big of a footprint it can have because it'll just take over a whole zone. I know we did have quite a large section of cattails, which some of the species can be invasive because it hybridizes into a pretty invasive. The 2 cattails that are in Wisconsin hybridize into an invasive species. We have a lot of problems around UW-Madison with that, the Marsh of 1812. Just all cattails. The whole marsh is cattails.
Oh, really?
And I'm not sure if we have the hybridized version here or not, but that could be an issue. So that's kind of
great.
up for interpretation. We'll have to do a little more research on that to see if it is a problem that we need to do. But otherwise, there's a lot of stuff you can do with just introducing more natives, with seed collection and seed spreading, that can help introduce more natives without having to necessarily mitigate invasives if it isn't a huge issue.
Awesome, wonderful. Any other comments from the park board? Judy?
Boy Scouts would be interested in some of these projects, you think?
Certainly.
Maybe we should get them involved?
Certainly. If you come up with something, certainly Eagle Projects, probably a little bit younger in terms of that right now. We
Farther
don't have
down the
quite
line, but
Yeah.
Well, just so that they would be involved, maybe the
Yeah.
masters or whatever. they'd be
Yeah, we have a lot
involved
of volunteer groups that do stuff like that around Madison, so you could definitely implement something like that here.
in. Mhm.
Maybe
The
with
bridge in Lerner was an Eagle project, so.
Yeah, maybe with some of the, when
that
you
was
get,
an eagle? The bridge, yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought you were meaning the big
Yeah.
one over to Dingham.
not
No,
Keller,
no, no, no.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's,
Yeah, maybe with, wow.
Bald eagle or-
Like steel and everything. Those are some strong Eagle Scouts. No, I was thinking maybe when we get to the point where you have kind of your, implementation goals and some of those things that these would need to be constructed, maybe they can be some kind of categories of these are sort of citizen, community level projects versus obviously something we would have to bid out and would be more of a, kind of public works scale installation. But yeah, I think seems like the stakeholder interviews and an online survey would definitely be doable. I don't know how you guys feel about. Obviously, it's getting cooler. Trying to organize some kind of community walk. It's definitely helpful to see some of the spaces, but it is a lot of space, and so it might be we're meeting over here, we're meeting over there. Different points, but I'm not sure what kind of a turnout we would get for that, or if we have better luck just with stakeholder interviews and then kind of a more online survey, and if people have further comments about specific places, obviously it can kind of add into that, or we could have some kind of map even on the online survey where, point to the areas that are, what are your favorite areas and why, and what areas are challenging. But any thoughts on trying to organize an in-person? I guess, do you feel like there would be a lot of feedback lost if we didn't do something like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. In my mind, I think it's all or nothing in these parks. You're gonna see that the stakeholders know quite a bit. They're there quite often, and so doing a walkthrough probably isn't necessary there. And anyone who's not a stakeholder probably isn't going through it, right? So then they're not really able to identify, those specific spaces because maybe they've gone through once or twice. So I am apt to say it's probably not necessary unless a stakeholder group themselves want to go through, as a group. I could
Right, 'cause-
see ONA kind of saying like, it might be helpful for us to walk through because we're very familiar with what we're looking at.
Right, and Rotary, like, the history out
Correct.
there is maybe better just discussed in context than.
Right.
Yeah.
So, giving them the option, I think potentially, but as far as the public, I just don't know that
Yeah.
people have a ton of experience in the parks enough to negate needing that.
Yeah, we could also do something which is more conceptual rather than like current existing. So like say, oh, I really like paved paths. Oh, I really like having a picnic area to sit at. Oh, I really like just being able to see plants. That sort of like questions of
Yeah.
like, what is your priority when it comes to this?
Other comments? Andy?
Yeah, I'm just gonna agree with Lynn on that as well. I mean, the people that would go out there to walk are the ones that are already pretty intimate with the area. I think one thing that would be helpful if you're doing an online survey is to have a map of the entire property where it breaks down into all of the different parks, just so people realize how big the space actually is. And one thing I guess I would ask is, I know the village has been putting together surveys and questionnaires here for a while. I would like to add a few more questions or dig a little deeper with some of them instead of saying, what do you like about it? Actually dig into like, what don't you like about it, or give like an essay space at the end. Because I think that's just been lacking a little bit on some of the other surveys where you could dig a little deeper on some of the questions.
Okay. Maybe we can aim for the November park board meeting, not to put you on the spot here, Morgan, but that'll be November 12th, correct?
Yes.
Peggy and Leanne, okay, so maybe we have a draft of that survey done and we can review it definitely ahead of time together, have that in the packet, run that by you guys, and then we can try to run that, maybe mid-November through early December, something like that, for a couple weeks, and that'll give us some time to get the word out. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, there's a pretty important survey that ends on November 11th, so
Yeah,
maybe we
I
don't
know.
want to do concurrent.
Yeah, that's
So
what I
we'll wait
was
till that
thinking.
one's done.
Yeah,
and then,
the referendum one is kind of, that'll be a hot topic as well.
Yeah.
So just want to make sure you get your airtime that you deserve.
yeah, you don't want to
so.
ruin your survey.
Yeah.
Or yours.
Yeah, also that.
Ours.
Morgan, I just have one last question. As far as getting together with the stakeholder groups, is that something that you're gonna drive, or is that something that village staff is gonna drive to try and coordinate some of that stuff?
Yeah.
I can do a lot of it, but I don't have a lot of the contacts.
Yeah.
So I
Sure.
Yeah, we'll work
Yeah.
together, probably at
Some-
least do like an email introduction for her and connect to the groups, and then I imagine too, we would probably be there for the interviews at least to help introduce and facilitate, and probably host it here at Village Hall or wherever folks want to meet, if we want to meet out at the parks or whatever, but we're not gonna leave her high and dry, but we'll let her, she's gotta do some of the work too, we don't wanna do all the work for her, so
Right.
but we'll help her out with getting connected with those groups
Great.
in the next few weeks.
Thank you.
I'm a little biased on video anyways. There's an opportunity that instead of actually having a public entity, maybe we could do just a video walkthrough of some sort. And I've seen Joe Parisi did that when he was talking about a particular park. And you can just do little segments. It doesn't have to be top-notch professional, but it can be something that could be shared, that just learning about it, maybe introducing this this is the topic, and so you can get more people's attention and you can actually be in place. So might be an avenue that we can do something like that, just kind of a walk and talk.
Yeah, I've seen some cool like mountain bike trail GoPro videos where you're like just explain, some complicated terrain and which way you're really supposed to go, and they're fun. There's usually some good music in the background too. So.
Morgan, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We're excited about it, like Andy said, so all of us in the park board are glad to see that action. So thank you for showing up tonight and joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So moving on to 5C, the Recreational Programming Coordination Report. Item 1, a recap of the Sounds of Summer and the Wonka movie.
Yes, so all the special events are behind us. I don't know if I'm sad or happy about that, but I am proud to report that they all went fairly well. Sounds of Summer, oh my gosh, the weather gave me nervous breakdowns all day, but then like the hour before would decide to clear up and we lucked out there. It's probably because I didn't have a rain date this year. And Wonka movie night, oh my goodness, there's a reason those professionals charge what they do. They were amazing. They did all the AV. They took my laptop out of my hands and said, we got it from here, and I actually got to sit in the dugout and watch a bit of the movie. It was really fun. So yeah, I look forward to doing movie nights next year, definitely with the help of Fun Flicks. They were incredible. And same with Sounds of Summer. I think a lot of the bands are going to be asked to return, especially that Universal Sound. They've got this singer that does an Elvis that you would not believe. He had all the women swooning, and I happened to be sitting by his brothers, and they were shouting, "You're ugly," and all sorts of fun stuff. So, but each and every concert was an absolute blast. So I look forward to next year.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you very much for doing that, and I'm glad it was nice weather for you.
Yes.
Moving on to item 6, unfinished business. Many things that we discuss, and item 6A is a comparison pricing of the potential reservation software systems for 2025. Back to you.
Yes, so Elise and I did personalized demos with the 2 different programs. So we were able to tell them exactly what we're looking for and exactly what we're going to be using these for. And they both were super helpful. And I mean, let's face it, we have nowhere to go but up is what I'm trying to say. But both were fantastic. Both were pretty comparable as far as what they offered. I've used RecDesk as a parent through the OSD, and it's very user-friendly. The OSD has said that it has been user-friendly. They've had a couple smaller issues on the back end, but nothing they couldn't handle. But yes, so I did sort of an apples-to-apples comparison chart for you. And RecDesk had a lot to offer. They would be phenomenal, don't get me wrong. But Civic Plus seemed to be just a bit more what we were looking for as far as some of the concerns and feedback we got from Park Board were. One of the main ones, so I came up with the Civic Plus Deluxe and Civic Plus Economy. The 2 big differences, the Civic Plus Economy plan does not have the integration with the Musco lighting. Musco?
Musco. Unless
Okay.
you're from northern Minnesota, then it's Musco.
Which we don't even have the lighting yet, so
Correct.
that's not an issue. Same with an integration with something called Audio Eye, and it's basically a way of ADA compliancy so that those who are visually impaired can still access the website. At this point, it's not necessary, but we also have the Audio Eye capabilities through the Village website, through the same provider. So Candy's gonna go and see what we can finagle. So, with that said, I gave both of the demonstrators kind of a day-to-day scenario of what I'm doing and what, I need to share with others. And the Civic Plus plan without the Audio Eye and the Musco lighting integration would be my ideal. But let's be honest, they all would cut my workload quite a bit, which would be fantastic. And the pricing is, don't take it too serious at this point because Martin and Candy are gonna go in and try to haggle a bit, so.
So this pricing is an add-on to the current website? Is that how it's?
That's how they presented it. But again, Candy saw a lot of overlap. So, and I even mentioned, hey, like we do have a website through you guys, and this is still the price they gave. But yeah, she and Martin are fairly confident they can get a little bit taken off of that.
What do we actually need this, like what specific features are we looking for with this
Sure.
website?
So the big one is, well, there's like three big ones. One is just communication with Public Works. Like right now, it's just me emailing Eric and Nick and Jeff saying, here's this reservation, here's this reservation. And I'm human, things fall through the cracks. So, and even then I give them like a week, maybe week and a half notice.
Been great.
Yeah, and Nick will.
It's just not automated.
Right, it's not automated, and, I spoke with Nick Hack from Public Works about this, and he said there's times where it would be great to look a month or 2 months ahead and say, ooh, that's when Fall Fury is this year, or, oh, they are using this field at this time. So there's that. Second would be, just the fact that it would give the groups a bit more autonomy. So this year I've been having to, chase down some groups about payment. Also just, I'm literally inputting every single reservation into my Outlook calendar, which isn't the most secure, it's not the most, it's hard to track. So just having that automated and also in the hands of others would be fabulous. And then third, when it comes to reporting to you guys, I would be able to print through RecDesk. I didn't really have this capability, but Civic Plus had it where I could print out, there were 25 Highlands and Netherwood shelter reservations this year. Soccer used this field for this many hours. Like I could generate all sorts of reports that would be helpful to all of us.
I think, I'm thinking of how to phrase this. So
No, it's okay.
my mom works in admissions.
Oh, okay.
Or at Eagle, and she knows of some, I forgot the name of it, but she uses a booking software that seems like it could cover most of this. It wouldn't
Mhm.
cover payment,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems like it would cover a lot of it, and it is significantly cheaper. I think she told me $100 a year.
Okay.
Would you like to?
She's
I forgot what it was.
guarding the cello.
I'll research it more for next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be great. Mm-hmm.
I think
Other comments from the park board?
I appreciate this. This is exactly what I was looking for as
Okay.
far as the side by side comparison between these two.
Mhm.
I again go back to what you need most is
Mhm.
what I think we need to have. I agree that I don't know that the lighting thing is necessary and
Mhm.
potentially should it be necessary later upgrading. I mean if we go with the
Absolutely.
economy Civic Plus and then we upgrade to the
Mhm.
deluxe, that should be too hard, I can't imagine.
I don't think so. And my impression from DeForest that uses the same lighting company, I think the lighting comes with Like, I
Yeah,
know they
no.
sit at home and can control the lights.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah,
That's
I
fine.
don't know if that would have to be part of this.
Yeah, I don't
Anyway, okay.
think so either. It would just be more if we wanted it automated, like, oh, this field isn't in use. Oops,
Yeah.
lights stay off all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did take pause on the ADA piece only because obviously I want it to be as accessible as possible. But we're also, I'm also fully aware that, you know, we're not losing you. So if someone needed, you know, someone to walk through this or to
Oh,
read
absolutely.
through it, right? That's
Mhm.
the beauty of the village right now is that, you know, we still have that, you know, person to person interaction.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
I think as long as that's well, you know,
Mhm.
advertised that
Oh,
should you
absolutely.
need assistance,
Mhm.
right? So that makes me feel better that,
Mhm.
you know, it doesn't have that.
Just looking through all the presentation information, they do a nice job, but everybody can make their stuff look really pretty good. But there's a lot of aspects of this that I think is important. Mobile aspect is really good, so that's going to be more effective than an Outlook calendar.
Yes.
But and also the generating reports to be able to look at things and be able to pull things
Absolutely.
together. So if they focused on that and developed it along with it, I think that adds a lot of value on it. I did plan on joining you for the demonstration,
that's
but
okay.
as life came about. A couple other things that I find pretty important is that if we are going to be taking money and more money from different people, being secure with that. Today's world is really, really bad, and so if we can line this up with our village payments as well, that minimizes it. Then we don't end up jumping into two other
Absolutely.
aspects of it. Way beyond what you guys are dealing with, what I'm dealing with is some of the security levels, and so this so-called PCI compliance being one of which, as well as NIST standards, some of those things are really important. And sometimes we don't care, we don't know anything about it, but those type of things can tying into the website, minimizing that impact, and other people getting into that is an important aspect of this as well. Knowing a lot about automation and such, I don't worry about the lighting side of it at all. Because of it. I love all that integration, but that's not necessarily overall. It's a lot of money, and you know, something a big advancement that we haven't had incurred in the past. So that's a question, but it's negotiable. You know.
Yeah,
either way, so,
absolutely.
but
Like I said, we've got the heavies on it.
and you know, in a decision-making process, when you have a low and a high price, you always go with the middle price. So I think it's a good choice overall. So I appreciate your investigation. I really do like how you outlined it because that did allow
thank
to
you.
look in sharing that information. Are you looking for any kind of action, or what's the time frame that you're looking on this? Because that's a little bit, if we are going to expand this search a little bit further, or is it something that you're looking to act upon and get going? Because we really, when you start talking about planning for next summer,
Yeah.
February comes up quickly.
I would love to get the recommendation approved and then not this upcoming Monday, but possibly the next, like one of the November village boards, get it on the consent agenda would be my ideal.
And that, since there is a training plan along with this, that
Correct.
does take time as well. And,
Absolutely.
Speed of government takes a while to get going. And, obviously, we get into trying to schedule anything in a December timeframe, doesn't work real well. November really kind of narrows down, and before you know it, you're talking about 2025. And they put a plan together, and they're going to have a time frame as well. So I can see us trying to act on that overall. Does anybody in the park board, would they like to ponder this a little longer? Would they like to look at this a little bit further? Are they willing to, because we are absent with two other members. And one of the advantages I like about what Dave's been doing this a long time. And I really like his take on that as well. So, any thoughts on whether the park board would like to act on this, would like to put it on a hold for the next meeting?
Sorry. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. No, I mean, really, I'm not the one using it. If it's something you're comfortable with, Mark, you said it's a lot of money. I mean, it is, but it's not.
Mhm.
type of thing in the grand scheme of things. It's, you know,
Mhm.
reasonable. If, I guess the question is, by having this, are we gonna generate that amount of savings by you doing other things? And, you know, and everything else that it, you know,
Mhm.
can provide, like,
Yeah,
like
I'm
you said. with
hoping
the-
so. Absolutely. Mhm.
Judy?
Can I ask who was at the training session that was,
It was just Elise and I for both.
okay,
Mhm.
so the guys in Public Works, do they know about this or would that?
They do. You and Nick, we briefly discussed it, and they've asked.
Well, it's just nice for Nick to know, because he'll know if they get
Yeah.
on people go on
Absolutely,
vacation
yeah.
or what, so.
Mhm.
All of this software, I mean, we've not been integrally involved and we don't need to be, you
Mhm.
know, for something like this. I mean, the critical thing is whether, you know, at the time comes so that, you know, Nick can pull up the things he needs to
Mhm.
pull up. And these software systems are
Mhm.
built for
Yeah.
people like us.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
you know, that
Mhm.
can generate these things, especially once you know kind of the procedure. We'll be relying
Mhm.
heavily on Elise and Leanne in their knowledge of how to run the program and everything
Mhm.
like that. Our use will mostly be just verifying that our fields are ready and, you know, if we have any upcoming needs
Mhm.
for sites, extra trash cans, tables,
And like
whatever.
Paul Ferry, if he can't, he doesn't give anybody vacation that weekend or whatever, that he needs the
Mhm.
park person to be there, whatever. So,
Say that again?
for vacations and, and things like that,
Right,
he'll
Right.
know what's going on in town, so.
Mhm.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Other comments? I tend to agree that it's really your use and how
Okay.
it ties into it. And so I think that it's also lining up with the website, I think is really positive overall. So
Mhm.
I'd like to call for a vote on that.
What is the motion? Peggy's
I'll make a
asking.
motion.
Do we have a motion on the
I can make a motion.
Would you
You
make a
don't.
motion? Thank you.
I move to approve the purchase and implementation of the Civic Plus Economy Plan.
Maybe to recommend to village board.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I
Mhm.
motion to recommend to the village board approval of the purchase and implementation of Civic Plus Economy Plan reservation software system.
Great job,
I definitely did do
Lynn.
it twice.
Without audio I and Musco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also that.
Oh, yeah, that's what the economy is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that is true. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Nikki, I know you were talking about.
I talked this through with my mom actually because I know that she like has people booking her time, and I have to do more research on it, but I don't see
Mhm.
why one of these, like something similar to what she uses, that significantly less money couldn't be just scaled up to work with the parks and booking the parks.
Can we ask you a couple of questions? Would you mind coming? Well, let's do some research right now.
Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Sorry.
No, you're. I guess my question originally, so if we are trying to book multiple sites at the
Yes.
same time,
Yeah, I just use an add-on. I don't know what the village uses for their website, but we did WordPress, and then I just use an add-on that is, I use Gravity Forms, and then I use a booking software just that I combine with it, and it's $100. So my boss actually proposed the same thing, and I said I wanted some admission software for $6,000 a year, and he said, "Can you do it for free? Can you do it better?" And he pushed me on it, and I said, "No, I can't." And then I watched 1,000 YouTubes, and then I realized I could. And so I was talking to Nico about it, and I was explaining how I did it and how I went about using the current website that we already have for Eagle School, and how I went and was able to invoice people for different things, how I was able to book things, and I just suggested gently. Now I understand your problem because I was the same.
No, that's, yeah.
But my board turned me down, and I just said, you know,
Mhm.
with the village sending all this money and having all these referendums, you can say $12,000 isn't a lot of money, but it might be.
Yeah,
And
that's a-
so if there is a way to do it for free, could we explore that and push that a little farther?
Mhm.
That's all.
I have a follow-up, not quick to you, but Leanne.
Yes.
So this is the price for the year, so there's nothing
Correct.
saying that if we did this and, I mean, obviously watching 1,000 YouTubes to figure out how to do this, to set this up would definitely take resources and time
Mm-hmm,
to do that, but that would definitely be an avenue
mm-hmm.
to look at, to explore further.
Oh, yeah,
After this
absolutely.
year.
And I mean, there's, in the throes of stressful days, there have been times where, yes, I've looked into Etsy templates and like other smaller software systems or something on Canva or, you know, even different Outlook capabilities. And I haven't been able to find it, but I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but I have gone down that avenue several times as well.
I mean, it would just be the trade-off right now of
Yeah.
having something to use
Mm-hmm.
versus, okay, let's hold off on this and then take all the resources to set up something. I mean, because like, it obviously takes a lot of time and, you know, resources to do that.
Are you an admin on the village website? Are you
Yes.
able to?
Yeah.
Can you, what program do you use, WordPress?
Civic Rec, no.
It is
it's
called Civic Rec.
Correct, yep, so this would be an add-on module with what the village uses. Mm-hmm,
Yeah, because I was thinking about security on.
mm-hmm.
I'll expand on that. WordPress is, from my IT department, is a major hack. And it's really risky. And so, well, we were hacked on our company because of WordPress, so we've gotten off of that. And taking money and other things,
Mhm.
that'd be a real concern from security, so. Because we are liable for all of that, that aspect of it, but. I agree, there's lots of great tools and lots of wonderful things you can do. It does take time, and then you also run into some other hiccups along the way, but appreciate your ideas. I'm not trying to
Yeah,
undermine
absolutely,
anything.
no,
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
absolutely.
Explanation.
Definitely.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
So we do have a motion on the table, we had some discussion. Any other further discussion in regards to the motion on the table? Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you very much. Appreciate you putting it together.
Well, you can just don't vote.
Yeah,
on
you can abstain.
I abstain.
Nico's
Okay,
abstaining.
abstain, okay.
Yes, okay.
Oh, you
Fair enough.
has to have a place to sleep tonight. If
Yeah,
No, I mean, I-
Eat her food and.
I think that was great.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
So item 7, new business. So we were talking about possible recommendations for village board regarding to naming of 2 Greenview Preserve Parks. And don't think there was any action in regards to that. Was there any?
Well, we're just asking if you would like to be a part of the naming of these parks. I mean, we don't have new parks come along too often.
Yes.
And so, we have 2 parks coming online, Outlot 9 and Outlot 11. And, you know, it's really up to you, if you know, we don't wanna go in and name something and then have someone go, why'd you come up with that? I think it should go something through a recommendation from the park board, followed by approval by the village board. And yeah, we have some great examples out here, but, and some of them are, let's see, Outlot 9 is the one, Outlot 9 is the larger just green grass area behind Richards Road and North Prairie Parkway, and Outlot 11 is that active playground area. Outlot 9, it's, like I said, could be Stoddard Park. That's access along 2 points along Stoddard Drive. There's Greenview Preserve Park, but we may want to hold that off because there's a larger park that's off of North Prairie Parkway. If you remember, that'll be part of probably phase 3 or 4. Grace Park, if we wanted to honor Mike Grace as our first village administrator. Mary Jo Lease Park, honoring original landowner. Jim did not propose this. This is something that, these are, all except for the last 2 on each line here, or last one on each line were some of my ideas, but, and I threw Parky McParkface in there just cause that was funny, that came out of JC Community Park naming. The playground one, Savannah Park, it's up on Savannah Drive. Prairie Mound Park, it's in the vicinity of Prairie Mound Cemetery. Northside Park, and then my favorite is the Elise and Leanne Park of Complete Funness. And they would not allow me to print this until I put that on there.
No, it will very quickly turn into the Elsie and Laney or Leanne Park of Complete Fun.
So I don't know if there's, I mean, naming parks, in the last couple of years, I mean, we looked at J.C. Park, we talked about Gary Dish, Park, that was something that came through. But beyond that, we have some memorial parks, I know. We have Norm Champion, we have, Gassner Park, I think is a memorial park. Some of them are named after the subdivision areas. So you are the park board. What do you want?
Oh, I have a comment.
Yes, Andy?
I would like to see the end of naming parks after people. I'm just not a fan
Okay.
of that. I'd rather name it for either the subdivision or the area or something else that's historic to the area as opposed to just naming it after
Sure.
more white people. I mean, it's what it is. It's,
If his name was on there, maybe you'd think differently.
no, I would hate it. I wouldn't want that at all. So I just would like to see the process of naming stuff after people end.
But have you
Especially
seen
with
the
the parks.
work that those people put in all their lives?
I'm not discounting the work that they
Yeah.
put in, but it just, for the majority of the people that go there, they don't care. You know, I mean, I like what you did with the bench for Mike out in the park. I would much rather see that than name, something after that. There's different ways to thank people and memorialize that as opposed to just a park.
Fair enough. Lynn?
My comment on this is that I think this is a great opportunity for some community engagement. I've seen, and you've probably seen this, lots of municipalities are doing this where you name a snowplow or a
Yep.
mower or something like that. And although I don't know that that's super useful, it is nice to give people kind of the fun part of being in the community. I feel like sometimes all we ask is serious things or especially this year. And so two of my ideas were, is this something that we could put on a social media post, maybe different pictures and people could like whichever one they, want, or, and this is a shameless plug, but in 2 weeks, the village is having a trunk or treat event, and potentially letting people vote, if they're here and their families are, participating. They could, fill out a ballot and the kids can vote for their favorite parked name or something like that. As a village outreach coordinator, I'm in charge of that event, and so I'd be happy to put that together. I just think, these parks are used by the community, and letting kids pick the name of the park is kind of a fun way for them to be involved in the village, in a way that they're not usually, and they're the ones who use the park, so.
So we're gonna have a Parky McParkface, finally.
No, I would eliminate the last two just because kids don't quite have great thought processes on making decisions. But and again, they won't know these people, but maybe if we have the explanation of this is the first village administrator, this is the landowner, that can
Right.
sort of help.
Right.
But I do also agree with Andy's point that people, it's a tough thing, but just a thought.
It is nice though to have it like the subdivision, and then if I wanna go to the park, it's in that subdivision.
But when you have 3 to 4 parks in that subdivision,
Correct,
that's what I'm saying, it's,
correct,
you
you're
might
right.
want to reserve that for the more prominent
Right.
part of the subdivision
Right.
than one of the smaller ones. So I agree with you completely on that, because it helps us when we know where, if we were called Autumn Ridge Park, that's probably easier for most people to understand than
Right.
Gary Dish Park. But,
Problem is, half of the roads in town are probably named after people too.
Where we have
yeah,
1,000 autumn
things.
So that is something for the upcoming, so I think we can give some thought to. I certainly welcome any kind of avenue that we can get, public input would be awesome. So,
What do you have to know by?
I am looking for your direction on this. I mean, we're not, if if you want to make a recommendation to the board that we do a public naming contest or whatever, that's an option. If you want to forward recommended names to them, that's another option. You could have Lynn collect some votes or something like that, name this parks. I'd be happy to work with you and just kind of get you the exhibits of where they are. People have a hard time visualizing it, just because it's not like a JC Park where we have a really nice color rendering of it. We do on the Savannah Drive one, the playground one. Yeah, we do have a nice rendering of that.
I think Savannah Park would be.
I think so too.
Yeah, some people may not like naming a park after a cemetery, you know.
No.
But I was just trying to think of what's up there, just south of Fitchburg Park. That's another one. I had that idea once. I didn't put that one on there.
Thank you.
I like Savannah Park for that one as well.
I do too.
I think with, this time we should gather some more information. Our recommendation will be that we find an avenue to gather some community input versus 7 or 8 of us.
So we have a little time to do it.
Yes.
So you'll be getting back to, or do you want to put this on a future park board agenda, or what? I guess I'm.
That's
I'm
what
a
I
little
would think.
confused
On
on
a
what
future,
you're-
let's table and put it in a future park board, and that gives it in there. Gets some awareness to anybody that is watching us, and awareness, and then we bring that up and.
Phones are ringing as we speak.
I think so. Yeah, that's why my phone is getting me
Right.
spammed. Like,
Hey,
How many people have viewing?
So 7B, upcoming dates. Our next meeting dates are Tuesday, November 12th, and Tuesday, December 10th. Do we envision any conflict with either one of those?
I don't know, December is my birthday, do I have to count? No.
You have to bring treats.
Yes.
It is school time, isn't it?
It is. Very good. We'll continue on with those dates. Item C, items for any future meetings and assignments. I
Did you
have
do
none.
park board comments?
No.
We will, that was after that.
Oh. You're going BCA?
Yeah.
Park
Sure.
boards are D. Right?
Where you at?
8A.
A?
Whatever.
Okay.
Here,
That's
so
fine. We can go out of order.
Just want to make sure you didn't skip that.
Okay, I'm looking at a different. Okay, I was looking at the one I downloaded, so it's D is the park board comments. So we'll go to park board comments.
Changed it.
Any comments from the park board? Judy?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Nico?
I think with the village referendum and the financial crisis that the village is facing, as a park board, we should strive to save as much money as we can and maybe not start any new projects in the future just to like save money. Like I feel like the best thing that we can do as a park board is just maintain the parks and try not to start any new big projects.
Understand. Thank you for your comments. Lynn?
No comment?
Andy?
I have 2. One, Anderson Park Friends Candlelight Hike and Bonfire, Saturday, November 2nd from 5 to 8. Since that butts up to the village, so please come out if the weather's nice. And 2, Jeff, I guess I wanted an update on the basketball court paving. I know this stuff got ripped up, but the memo said it would be a week, but obviously times change.
Yep.
Just wondering if you had an update on that.
Yeah, I talked to Lauren about that the other day. So on 2 of the courts, they did pave the Gassner. There's some stuff on the corners, there's some punch list items I know that have to be done, and none of the restoration's been done on anything. On Bethel Greenacre, they discovered some soft spots, so, in the sub-basin, so they're actually digging those out and have been digging those out and recompacting those, as well as they also found the same thing at the Mary Hill Park.
Okay.
So, I believe they were hoping to be able to be paving by the end of this week or beginning of next.
Okay.
But I'm always, when I saw that schedule, I'm like, there's no
Right.
way. I mean, they were gonna do it all in a week, and I just said, yeah, whatever, there's no way that'll happen. And this time of year, in all honesty, paving companies are getting pulled many different directions. Our closing date for this contract is mid-November, and so, which is usually around shutdown of the asphalt plants anyhow. But they still have restoration to do, so I'm sure that's kind of been a part of it too, so.
Right, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. And we have new basketball backboards, and the striping will be done in next year.
So you're sure good weather for the Anderson Park?
I mean, my track record for the year of all the events that I've hosted has been really good, so
Yeah.
I'm probably due for a bad weather day.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be great. It has been, definitely. So I have no other further comments for the park board, so I'll call for an adjournment. Item 8.
I will move.
Amy,
I'll second.
Second, Judy. Any comments? All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. So move. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morgan, appreciate it.